Welcome to CrockTalk Podcast. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And on today's episode, we got a jam-packed show. We're going to get into some Julio Jones destinations, landing spots, where he might go. We're also going to get into a little bit of 49ers receiver talk about the group as a whole, specifically the wide receiver 3 group. And then skinny man Devonta Smith, talk about will his lack of weight hinder him at the NFL level, and maybe some challenges receivers like him pose to bigger corners that most people think will just muscle them. All right. But before we get started, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. CrockTalk TV. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Make sure, patreon.com/CrockTalk. Get over there. Subscribe. Got season 2 coming out. Bunch of prospects we're going to be getting into, breaking down and everything. And also, you know what? Got the podcast coming on now. All right. So it's already up on Spotify and some other streaming sites, but I'm waiting for that Apple pod to clear. All right. So the Apple podcast should clear. It's going to be CrockTalk, the CrockTalk podcast. So make sure you guys, once that's out, subscribe to that. Obviously, I'll post a link to all that. All right. But we're going to get into everything right now. As you guys know, sad news. I'm leaving Strike and Gold. Sad day. Now, it's all good. You know, I love my guy, Rob. Love and appreciate Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones, man, he put me on with my podcast, my first podcast. For those of you who have been following me on Twitter, at Eric_Crocker for a long time, I had the press coverage podcast, and I would talk about more, wide receiver, defensive back, specific type stuff like we're going to be doing here on Crock Talk. All right. But, so I had that, but it kind of, I got busy, a lot of transitioning, a bunch of other things I was doing at the time as well. So I ended up doing Strike and Gold with Rob Louder, and we did that, 2 years? Recorded, multiple shows a week. And Rob, man, he turned into like a brother of mine. We talk all the time. When it's time to record a podcast, we'll record our podcast. We'll probably talk for 30 minutes before the podcast, probably talk for another hour after the podcast. So, yeah, man, my first time being a credentialed member of the 49ers media, Rob was really excited to kind of come down, take me upstairs, kind of show me the ropes of everything. So that was cool. He's always been great for me. When we're credentialed at 49er training camps, I was always by Rob. He kind of showed me the ropes and all that, man. But Strike and Gold is definitely coming to an end. For me, it will still continue with Rob, and he'll have a new co-host soon. I'm actually moving over to another platform that I will announce Monday. It should be announced on Monday. So I'm really excited about that. Really excited about, moving on. And, the goal with all this stuff, man, is to keep kind of moving up, keep figuring out different ways to, be able to monetize and everything like that. So, luckily, you guys have been great to me. I've had a good following, and it's continued to grow on social media. And, that's kind of helped me do a lot of things that I'm able to do today with this stuff. So I want to say to y'all, I appreciate y'all. My guy Rob, Kevin Jones, appreciate y'all as well, man. And shoot, I was with Blue Wire Pods from the jump. And I mean from the jump. So is this a life story podcast? No, this is not a life story podcast. I was just talking about me leaving Strike and Gold and, all the good times with that. But we're going to get into some better stuff, all right? So first, let's talk about Julio Jones. And I want to know, what is Julio Jones' end goal, right? Like, what's the plan with Julio Jones? Is the Julio Jones thing, he wants out. That's clear. Now what, right? He says he doesn't want to go to Dallas. We'll see if it kind of plays out that way. I think Dallas might be able to send back Gallup. And I know Gallup, he's in the last year of his contract. Doesn't make a lot of sense for Atlanta. I think it does in the sense of it creates, even if he's on the last year of his contract, they still kind of get to free up that cap space moving forward if they elect not to bring back Gallup. And but Gallup is, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. So it's like, okay, get rid of Julio, but okay, we can get Gallup, obviously get some draft compensation. And I think that's a win-win for both sides. Although I know he said he doesn't want to go to Dallas Cowboys, but I think that would be a good fit. Was the Shannon Sharpe thing planned? I think my initial reaction, and I think like a lot of other people, it was like, dude, this does not seem right. Like anybody, and I know you guys are, everybody, we're all men and everything like that. Anytime you have somebody on speakerphone, the first thing you do is say, I'm on speakerphone. Like, no matter what, if you're in a car with other people, if you have somebody on speakerphone, like, you let them know. It's common courtesy, right? Like, that's the first thing I do. Anytime I call one of the homies and I got them on, hey, I'm on speakerphone. Hey, I got my wife right here, whatever it is. So you just make sure they don't say anything that they don't want to say, all right? Or that you don't want them, you don't want other people hearing. So it was interesting to see that there wasn't that. Like, there wasn't that part of the conversation. It just jumped straight into, hey, thank you for calling me back. I knew you was going to call me right back. And then it was just straight into like, well, who do you want to play for? Are you going to play for Atlanta? And he's like, nah, man, I'm out of there. Just the way the whole conversation was kind of played out. And then at the very end, it was like, oh, by the way, you're on live TV. And I feel like, and obviously Julio continued to, say like, yeah, I ain't going to Dallas or whatever. But I mean, by that point, the damage was done. So was that planned? Do you think that Julio was in on the whole thing? Do you think that Julio's agent was right next to him? Like, listen, we're going to force our way out of Atlanta. We're going to put on TV. We don't want to be there. Maybe that'll make it to where they get rid of us quicker, or not quicker, because you got to wait till the first anyways. But, I don't know. I just thought that it looked a little shady, because I just feel like you can't. And he got on there like, I'm your favorite uncle. I'm like, man, he ain't nobody's favorite uncle after this. Not if Julio didn't know about it, but sounds like Julio might be okay with it. But now where does he go? What is Atlanta able to get for him? I think everybody's looking at this situation and it's like, Julio Jones, like, it's got to be just like this crazy draft capital. I have seen that they want a first for him. I have seen a report that somebody was willing to give a first for him. And maybe a team will, Green Bay Packers, I don't know. But when I look at it, it's like 32-year-old receiver coming off of an injury kind of riddled season where he missed 7 games. I don't think he has missed as many games as a lot of people say on social media. Like, I hear people on social media just say, oh, he's always hurt. And it's like, dude, this dude has missed 8 games over the last 4 years, and 7 of them were last year. You know what I'm saying? So, or over the last 3 years, and seven of those games were last season. So it's not like this, like Julio has just been this guy who is always hurt and, can't play or whatever. He's been extremely productive. I would go on to say, and this is without me really looking into it, kind of talking out my ass a little bit, but has anybody been more productive over the last 4 years or last 3 years? Yeah, 4 years, whatever, than Julio Jones? Probably not. And that's with him missing 7 games last year. Dude's been going crazy. So Julio Jones, he's still top tier, but he is 32 years old, or about to be 32 years old. He is coming off a season where he missed 7 games. He is coming from a team that is forcing him out. What is his actual, value to another team? Is it a first round pick? I would lean to say no, especially depending on who you are. I mean, if I'm just really that desperate, obviously he's going to help any team that he goes to. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But, you got to factor in the money. Any team that trades for him, they're going to have to take on, $15 million. I'm going to list some destinations where I feel like he fit. I'm not going to even factor in what their cap space is, because I really feel like the cap, the whole cap thing, like, you can make that work, however you want to make that work, right? Like, if you want Julio to fit in, you're going to figure out a way to make sure Julio fits, no matter what your cap situation is at this current moment. All right. So I think I saw like something about the Saints looking into Julio Jones. Weren't the Saints like $100 million like over the cap to start this offseason? So if the Saints are interested and they can figure out a different way to get Julio Jones, like, come on, man, like the cap stuff, it's whatever. So I'm not even factoring in that part. Just what spots will he go to and what will the compensation be? All right. I think off top, we've seen A.J. Brown really vouching for him, right? And I think that that's something that can, definitely help. A.J. Brown, when you look at him and kind of what he's been and who he has played with, I think that's definitely a good spot for him. You lost Corey Davis, who, I don't think Corey Davis played as well consistently as he would like. He dealt with injuries, he dealt with, just the quarterback situation in general, having, a guy like, Marcus Mariota and, kind of going through his struggles, being up and down a little bit, going from that to Tannehill, also, one of the most run-heavy offenses in the league. So maybe it was just the lack of passes going around, and that's what led to Corey Davis not being extremely productive. But obviously, AJ Brown, he's eating in his role, and he probably would like somebody opposite him that'll really work out. And I think Julio, that'll make Tennessee dangerous. That'll make Tennessee dangerous. So if I'm Julio, I think that's probably the first place that I would go to. Or not that he has a choice, but if I'm Atlanta, that's probably one of the first places because, one, it's an AFC team. So, ideally, I would like to get Julio out of the NFC. All right, trade him to an AFC team. I think he fits right in with what, the Titans do. Even though they don't throw the ball a ton, they do take deep shots, and I think him and AJ Brown would definitely work off each other extremely well. Another team that everybody's kind of throwing out there, the Colts. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's another team that would, ideally fit. I'm trying to look at situations where it's like they can maximize what he is, right? They can maximize what Julio is. And I think when you look at a team like the Colts, having Carson Wentz, who kind of needs that guy, right? Like, can Carson Wentz have that bailout guy, a guy that kind of help smooth over his transition from playing poor? I think people talk about Carson Wentz like he's some bum, and like he's been this bum his whole career. He was a bum last year. Like, he was. I mean, he got benched for a guy who I thought was going to be a running back coming out, Jalen Hurts. But, he got benched in that situation. He was playing very bummy. But before that, Carson Wentz is good. I think his biggest issue before was the fact that he just couldn't stay healthy. I think more so than anything, that was more of his issue. But, from an athletic standpoint, from a mobile ability, the ability to throw the ball downfield, he does those things well. Can he get back to a space where maybe his clock isn't as sped up? Can he get back to a spot where, he's not rushing everything, his mechanics kind of get cleaned up, and be a part of an organization that is going to do whatever to really help him do well? And I think the Colts are that team that provide really good structure. Here's a part of the Eagles with Ward, and we're going to get to the Eagles receivers. I'm going to talk about Devonta Smith coming up, but Ward, that was a quarterback. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Reagor, who was kind of up and down and got hurt. So it's like they didn't really help him. Like, they didn't help him. And then I'm hearing about the head coach and Carson Wentz not talking to each other for like 10 weeks straight. I don't even know how that's possible when Doug Peterson was an offensive guy and you don't talk to your quarterback. I don't know. Terrible situation, really weird, but he gets a fresh start. And what better, to have a fresh start, to have like weapons and structure and great culture, right? That the Colts have built. Talking about a really good running game with Taylor. I think he's just getting started. Michael Pittman Jr., if he can stay healthy, like, that's going to help big time. T.Y. Hilton, you got that veteran savvy receiver. And if you add Julio Jones to that mix, like, bro, what are we talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to really compete. And again, that's another team where Atlanta has the chance to be able to get Julio out of the NFC and get him to an AFC team. And, I think those teams, they probably will end up kind of fighting for Julio because, I'd assume the Titans, they don't want to let the Colts get Julio. They're in the same division, right? So I think, when you kind of look at landing spots, those two fit very well. Another team, the Raiders, you look at the Raiders situation and, kind of losing a guy like Nelson Aguilar. That was their leading receiver last year. Like, Nelson was their guy. And, obviously I'm pretty sure they want to see Henry Ruggs take that next step. Brian Edwards got to stay healthy. He was a guy who just didn't get a lot of targets for whatever the reason. I was really high on Brian Edwards coming out. But you throw Julio in the mix, and you have a guy like Ruggs who can play off of him, and Brian Edwards who can play off of them and learn from him, and bring somebody to really help, Derek Carr. I think that's something that can really work. And we know, John Gruden likes his veterans. I don't think he'll be shy about giving whatever it takes to get a guy like Julio Jones over, because of the kind of situation that the Raiders have been in, needing to really, they got to make a move now. I mean, it's been like 3 years. They ain't sniffed the playoffs, right? And, John Gruden was paid $100 million. Paid $100 million. So he got to figure out a way to really make this work. And so if I'm the Raiders, I really go all in. I got to go all in this year because, you can't go 4 years missing the playoffs. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not really liking the Raiders receiver core, right now. Now you add Julio Jones to the mix. Now you got something. Because now I like the way that the other guys can play off of Julio. But can you count on Ruggs to be your wide receiver one? Can you count on Brian Edwards to, really take that next step? That's tough. That's tough. So I like the Raiders. And then obviously the 49ers, and that'll probably be the last team that I'll talk about. We'll see. I think, you like what they have with Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, you like what they have with Deebo Samuel. You want to see, Deebo stay healthy. You want to see Ayuk stay healthy. He missed 4 games last year. Obviously, you like what those guys can be. But I think you add Julio, and it just kind of solidifies the receiver core. It makes it where it's not this young, developing receiver core, and I'm not sure exactly what we have. It's like, boom, you got your bona fide wide receiver one, and you have a guy like, you got 2 receivers that can play off of Julio in Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So, I really like the thought of, Julio going to the 49ers. What the compensation would be, I don't know. As far as cap space goes, you if you want Julio, you'll make it work regardless. You'll make it work. So again, with any of these teams, I'm not speaking on what these teams' cap space situations are. I'm not worried about that because I really feel like if you want a player to work, like you'll figure out how to fit him in to your offense. So his contract isn't too crazy. We're talking about $15 million, that you'd have to take on right now. $11 million over the next couple of years. If I had to guess, I would say Julio Jones would probably want to restructure that and get more money, and teams will have to figure that part out. But he, as of right now, he's not like a ton of money. I got a question in the comments saying, do we know what Atlanta wants/needs, picks or players? And I would guess both. They are a team that, if you're trying to get Julio Jones off of your books for contract situational type things, you want to get Julio off, because of money. Then I think that you would lean more towards draft picks and more of a rebuilding thing. But I brought up Gallup and the Cowboys. Again, Julio said he don't want to go to the Cowboys, but I brought up Gallup because he actually is cheaper, much cheaper right now. And he still gives you a situation where, I have, with Kyle Pitts, with Ridley and Gallup, at least for this year, we're good. And then we'll figure it out moving forward. The Cowboys to me makes a lot of sense. But again, that was a squad that he said he does not want to go to. The Raiders do have Darren Waller. And I think that's looking at the receiving core is like, damn, maybe they are kind of like the 49ers, right? Where you have, and the 49ers receivers, rookie receivers have definitely been more productive. But, you have your tight end who's really your number one target who's going to eat up, a bunch of opportunities. And then you have 2 receivers who are younger and have ability, but you got to see what you're going to get from them. 49ers, I'm pretty sure, definitely feel more comfortable than the Raiders do. Raiders, Ruggs and Edwards weren't very productive, not like you would like to see. 49ers have had really good production out of both Ayuk and Deebo. They just got to stay healthy. I think if Ayuk was healthy last year, he'd be a 1,000-yard receiver. So now let's move on. I'm talking about the 49ers receivers. I want to talk about the 49ers and kind of what they have going on at the receiver position. Right now you look at the roster, there's a bunch of names. And not good names. Obviously you have Ayuk and you have Deebo. And I kind of look at it like, all right, both guys have kind of shown the ability to get hurt. Deebo more so than Ayuk if you go back to Deebo being in college and, time he missed and whatnot. But you look at it last year, Ayuk missed 4 games, 1 to COVID, but the other 3 due to injuries actually came in to the season injured. And then also missed 2 games to COVID, and then I think another one with the high ankle sprain, which I've never seen anything like what the 49ers dealt with last year with the high ankle sprains. That was like, that was crazy. But I started to kind of do some digging, right? And I'm like, well, maybe the 49ers aren't too worried about having just this pure wide receiver 3 because they don't run a ton of 11 personnel, right? When we're talking about 3 receivers on the field. So I did some digging, And actually, my guy, Rich Madrid, brought it up, and he was like, no, like 11 personnel was the 49ers. They ran that a higher percentage of any formation. And I looked into it, and I'm like, damn, they do. Like, they run that 44% of the time. Now, 44% of the time running 11 personnel, they ran it more than any other personnel grouping, but it was still the second lowest. There was only one team or two teams that ran 11 personnel a lower percent of the time than the 49ers. So, with the rest of the league, like, nah, it's not something that the 49ers do a lot when you compare them to where everybody else is, in the league. So, I have a great question here from Brandon Vincent where he says, is that because they don't have a wide receiver 3? And I would say no, because I think they were very comfortable with Kendrick Bourne being on the field and, working in that role. I think a lot of it had to do with just the way that Kyle Shanahan wants to run the offense and, wants to go through the running game. So, so 44% of the time in 2020, the 49ers ran 11 personnel, which was the third lowest or second lowest in the NFL. So I went back to 2019, and I'm like, well, let's see if in 2019 it was even better, any better than it was in 2020 as far as the percentage time that they ran 11 personnel. And it wasn't it wasn't any better with the receivers that the 49ers had in 2019. It was 42%, so it actually dropped 2%. And I was thinking, like, well, maybe it was higher 2020 because 49ers were down more, but 42%, which was third to last in the NFL as far as running 11 personnel groupings. So 49ers are not 11 personnel team. So when you look at that and you kind of factor in how Kyle Shanahan wants to run his offense, how much do you put on having a wide receiver 3? And what does that wide receiver 3 ideally have to look like? I think if you are in an offense like the Rams, where you're always going to have that wide receiver 3 on the field, I think they ran 11 personnel like it was one of the highest percent in the league. When you look at it like that, you would think that the 49ers don't really value the wide receiver 3 position as much. So they just want somebody that can come in and be consistent and kind of take control of that role. And when you look at that's what Kendrick Bourne has been. I think Kendrick Bourne, a lot of fans gave him a hard time. I brought up his drops and everything like that. To me, his drops weren't as much of an issue as people think when you look at it from a game-to-game basis. I think when you look at his drop rate, I think that was probably a little bit higher. But 2019, Kendrick Bourne dropped 3 passes. And those 3 passes were, I can count them off the top of my head. He dropped one against the Steelers, and that was week 3 when the 49ers played Pittsburgh Steelers, and he kind of got scared a little bit going over the middle, dropped the ball, and then he dropped 2 against the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football. One ended up getting picked off and taken back the other way by Diggs, but his drops weren't as big of an issue, and I thought he actually came through in a clutch a ton in 2019 in that season. Talk about 2 third down touchdown catches against the Saints. Really helped the 49ers win that game. Several catches in the playoffs where against the Vikings where he kind of really bailed out Jimmy Garoppolo. So he was a third down machine. Now, 2020, Bourne was probably on the field more. If I had to look at his snaps, I bet it was significantly higher than it was 2019. He dropped 6 passes. And I think 4 of them came in that one first half against – it was either Washington or Arizona. I don't know why I always get the game mixed up, but one of those games he had 4 drops in the first half. So, the rest of the year you talk about 15 games because he was out one game with COVID. He had 2 drops in the other 14 games in the season. So I think his drops were a little bit, exaggerated, but 49ers don't have that guy, right? Like that was the guy that was able to kind of solidify that wide receiver 3 position. So now who's going to be? And you look at it and you see guys like Richie James. That's the first guy that comes to mind. And my thing with Richie James is like, well, why hasn't it been Richie James all along? This is a guy that was drafted by the 49ers. If you guys remember back to Richie James' rookie year, playing in the preseason against the Dallas Cowboys, first game, he was on the field. Trent Taylor, I think that was when Trent Taylor broke his foot or whatever. So they had to plug Richie James right in and came through, made a couple catches, actually had a really good, very productive rookie preseason where he caught like over 14 passes, over 100 yards. So it was like, man, he can be productive. He caught what was against Tampa Bay a couple years ago, where he had that long touchdown catch down the left sideline. He's been very productive anytime he's given an opportunity, but they've kind of resorted to just playing him specifically on special teams. And you look at the one game against Green Bay, and I see Brandon talking about it in the comments. You see the one game against Green Bay where he was the only receiver that was available. Kendrick Bourne, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, all out due to COVID. And he had 9 catches, 180 some yards, a touchdown. And I don't take away from that's who Richie James is. Like, I'm not saying Richie is this prolific receiver, but I definitely think that he has the ability to be productive as a wide receiver 3. And now my question is, why isn't he? Why can't Richie James take control of that spot? And I think, maybe there's something up here. He's active every week, right? I mean, that was their primary return guy on punt return, kick returns. And even with that, he was a little inconsistent, but like, he's active. It would be one thing if it's like, well, he's not active all the time or whatever, so he doesn't get a lot of opportunities. He's active. And if you kind of just watch the games, you'll see him out there probably more than you realize. Doesn't always get the ball. Actually is a really good blocker. He reminds me a lot of Emmanuel Sanders, like just with his ability, but the opportunity for whatever reason hasn't come. And I understand, roster politics and kind of how that whole thing works, but I feel like there have been definitely like several opportunities for him to kind of take control of that spot, and it just hasn't happened. So if it's not Richie James, then who? I know there are a lot of people that want the 49ers to kind of go outside looking for, a receiver. I've heard names like Golden Tate. I've heard names like Jamison Crowder on the Jets. And I would say, I doubt they go that route. I think just kind of looking at the receiver 3 position and how much they have that third receiver on the field, I think they just need a guy who they can just count on and be productive. It doesn't have to be a guy. So when you look at who they have and you say, okay, they're going to give these guys all opportunities before they go to an outside source. Richie James, you're first up. What are you going to do? We've heard Jennings has done a good job so far through, a couple of days in OTAs, whatever you take from that, but he's out there, right? Jalen Hurd, he's kind of coming back. Sounds like he's working out on the side. We'll see. We don't know, right? And I know everybody in this chat, they're not banking on Jalen Hurd just being a guy. But at the very least, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, we're going to see, right? They're going to wait and see. Mohamed Sanu, everybody wants a guy like, we want Golden Tate. And it's like, you're going to go and sign Golden Tate when you have Mohamed Sanu, who kind of gives you that same type of ability. So you look at it and I would think ideally they probably want Richie James to take control of it and be that guy, because he has that type of ability to, really kind of be involved however they want. He can play inside, he can play outside, he can do all those things. He can also return punts and kicks as well, even though he's been kind of inconsistent doing it. But if it's not him, I would lean Sanu, but then you have the other guys. And I didn't even mention Kent Sherfield, for whatever reason, I thought Sherfield was like this, like 5'9", 5'10", 190-pound receiver. And I look at Sherfield, I Googled him. I'm like, this dude is 6'1", 220 pounds and ran in the 4.4. So he's another guy that will probably compete. Here's my question, and here's what I want to know. Will it end up being one or the other? And what I mean by one or the other, will it end up being Richie James or Ken Sherfield, right? Like, is it going to be between those two guys that end up, making the roster? Like, or do they both end up making it? I know a lot of people aren't really talking about Sherfield, and, he's kind of been a journeyman, and, he spent some time with the Cardinals, got some, played over guys that, that they drafted that year, Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler. He ended up playing and taking the snaps away from them. So will Sherfield end up kind of carving out a role as not just a return man, but maybe a guy that can get on the field on third downs? That's something that's going to be very interesting to see, especially if Hurd is healthy, if Jennings, continues to, do well during OTAs and kind of carries over to training camp, we're going to see. But if I had to bet money right now, I probably lean towards my guy, Richie James. Now, the last thing I kind of wanted to get into today, and again, this is all going on the podcast. I'm turning this into a podcast now. This is not the podcast that I will be joining. I will announce that on Monday. You guys should hear about that on Monday. If you guys aren't already, make sure you guys subscribe right now to the YouTube page, CrockTalk TV. Make sure you guys, if you're not, go ahead, go sign up for the Patreon account. I have season 2, patreon.com/CrockTalk. Season 2 of the film breakdowns is coming up. So that's going to be all fun and everything. But this right here is now a podcast. All right. So let's get into the next guy and team. And that is my guy, Devonta Smith. There's this picture floating around. I don't know if you guys saw the picture. I should find it. And I know I can do my screen share right here. But there's a picture floating around of Devonta Smith. And I know I've been a guy, I'm like wide receiver 1. There's nothing he can't do. Like, dude is terrific at all levels of the field, plays big. And when I mean plays big, I mean at the catch point, I don't know if there's anybody better at the catch point than Devonta Smith. I mean, he was that good catching the ball at his highest point, that he played through contact extremely well. He's a guy that's very fluid and sudden at the line of scrimmage, knows how to get skinny and do all these great things. Like, and it's like, okay, he's skinny, but you got to show me on film where that was an issue. Like that's always been my thing with Devonta Smith and how he's talked about. Show me on film where Devonta Smith is, his weight or lack thereof is an issue. And you can't. You can't. Now, there might be a rep where you show me, well, he got pressed up right here. Look at this. And you might attribute that to his weight. But then I'll show you 20 reps of Jamar Chase getting pressed. And are you going to say because it's because of his weight? So I'll say all that to say his weight has not been an issue, and I want to make sure I make that clear. But the Eagles posted a picture of him, and it didn't do him any justice. And my initial reaction is, damn, this looks like my son D. And my son D, he's a skinny dude. He's a little skinny dude. You know what I'm saying? He's an 8th grader going in ninth grade, late bloomer, hasn't hit that growth spurt yet. But I'm looking at Devonta Smith. I'm like, how is this dude so skinny? Like, how is he that skinny? He had a jersey. The sleeves are cut, all right? And even with the sleeves being cut, they still were like loose, like long sleeves on them. I'm like, man, this dude needs to get some. They need to shove down a few protein shakes down my man's throat, man. Like, but again, I don't want to say that his weight's an issue because to this point, it has not shown to be any type of issue. And he's everything that I want to see, I think he does extremely well, but he's dumbass skinny. He is. And we knew that. But to see that picture, I was just like, that's like a different type of skinny. You know what I'm saying? But so I'm not saying I'm worried about it. I'm just saying they got to help my guy somehow. And then I started to look like, okay, we got Devonta Smith. I think he's going to do well. I think he's a terrific receiver, obviously. And he's playing with his old quarterback, Jalen Hurd. Who else do the Eagles have? So I started doing a little digging. All right. And I look at some of the guys that they have. They just drafted Jalen Reagor. We'll see what happens with him. He's been a guy who has been somewhat, inconsistent, I guess, and then kind of dealt with some, nagging injuries and things like that. I liked Reagor coming out. He was like my wide receiver 7 or 8 that year. So, I like his ability and what he can be. Sounds like they're playing him more in a slot. We'll see how that whole thing turns out. So I like Reagor. And then after Reagor is like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and it's like, I don't like that. Crazy thing about Reagor and JJ Arcega-Whiteside, the very next pick. So there was the next receiver taken. So the Eagles took Reagor. The next pick, Justin Jefferson. The Vikings took Justin Jefferson. So you look at that, and it's like, ooh, kind of missed on that. Then the year before, they picked JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and like the next receiver taken was like DK Metcalf. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how did you guys whiff this bad? I'll tell you this, and I guess I could say it now because this coach isn't with the team, but they had a receiver coach, and he messaged me, and he said, hey, have you watched Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson? and this is the Eagles receiver coach. Have you watched Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson? And I was like, no, I haven't, but I will, and I'll give you my notes on them. So I watched them. I watched the guys, and I gave them my notes. And my notes was that I like both guys, but if I had to pick between one or the other, I would pick Justin Jefferson. And obviously that kind of played out in my rankings. I had Jefferson as wide receiver 3. And you look at it now, and it's just like, damn, probably should have listened to Croc. They went with the other guy. Now, when he was asking me this, I'm not thinking that maybe they're thinking about choosing between the two guys. I was just, giving my opinion. And sounds like I was more right than them. And I'm not saying I'm always right, but at least in that situation I was. So you look at that, and you look at JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and DK Metcalf was my wide receiver 1 and was the 9th receiver taken. That's crazy. But JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and then after that, Fulgham. Now, Fulgham did catch the game-winning touchdown against the 49ers. So you got to give him a little bit of props. I think for the most part, a guy that came out of like a small school, a guy who's probably undrafted, practice squad type player. I think, you look at that, and he was somebody who, played, he's carving out a role for himself on a roster but it's kind of a depleted roster. And then you continue to go. K's Watkins, he was a speedster, but late round pick. Greg Ward and Khalil Tate. Greg Ward, that was probably Carson Wentz's best receiver when Carson Wentz was playing. You know what I'm saying? Like Greg Ward, he was a quarterback at Houston. And then you look at Khalil Tate, and I wrote his name down, and I didn't Google this, but was Khalil Tate the quarterback from Arizona? And he's now a receiver? So you got 2 receivers that were quarterbacks. All right. You got skinny man Devonta Smith, who I really like, and I think he's going to be really good. But gosh, can you gain a little bit of weight? And again, I'm not big on the whole gain and weight thing, because I think that takes away from who you are. But damn, you're skinny. All right. He knows that. I'm sure he knows that. They got to do a little something about it. I don't think it'll be an issue, but I just have to say it. And then, it's just Reagor, Arcega-Whiteside, Fulgham, Watkins, Greg Ward, Khalil Tate. Like, that has to be the worst receiving core in the NFL. And I don't think highly of the 49ers receiving core, but at least, with the 49ers, you at least have George Kittle. With the Eagles, they don't even want hurt Zach Ertz. Who's the other guy? Didn't he get hurt? The other tight end. He's good. Can't think of his name right now, but I know he's good. But that's scary, kind of looking at that group. And I wanted to kind of talk about the last thing was to kind of get into Devonta Smith being skinny and why, to me, it's not as big of an issue. All right. Me, I was kind of a bigger corner, talking about 6'1", close to 200 pounds, right? So I was a bigger, more aggressive guy. I wanted to be aggressive with you at the line of scrimmage. The Devonta Smiths of the world are the hardest guys to press. So when I kind of tweet out that picture of him looking really skinny, if you guys haven't, go to my Twitter page, you'll see it. I wonder if I can share it, my Twitter. I'll find that picture. All right. But when you look at that picture and it's like, damn, he's skinny. Somebody commented underneath him was just like, he what was the comment? It basically like he's gonna get pressed up. And my thing was, those are the hardest guys to press because Dallas Goedert, excuse me, that's the other tight end. So these guys, and I'm gonna share my screen now. Here we go. Let's see, Chrome tab. All right, can y'all see that right there? All right, so this is the picture right here where I was just like, damn, he's skinny. All right, so the Devonta Smiths of the world, man, those are the hardest guys to cover. They are the hardest guys to cover because when you're at the line of scrimmage and he's right there in front of you, right, and you want to be patient with your feet and everything like that, but when you see a guy like that that's that skinny, it's like, now I want to muscle this guy, right? Like I want to get my hands on him and I want to control him. But what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times if you shoot, especially if you shoot both hands, your feet stop. And once your feet stop, you kind of lock your hips. When you go to shoot both hands against a guy like Devonta Smith, who is quick and fluid at the line of scrimmage and knows how to get skinny, if you don't get hands on him, it's over. It's over from there. So, yes, he is a guy that when you get hands on, you can have your way with him. But he's also a guy that more times than not, you're gonna probably you might miss, especially if you try overly hard, because then everything else messes up. Again, you end up stopping your feet, you end up locking your hips, and then what happens is when the receiver goes, you end up getting in kind of this chase mode, and now your time clock gets sped up. When your time clock gets sped up, all your technique goes out the window. All right, your technique goes down. Now you're not reading down the receiver. Now you're not looking, at his body and everything. Like you are now looking at, I'm in survival mode, and your technique all goes out the window. So now if he sits down on the route, you're gonna keep going upfield. He's gonna sit down, and it's gonna be easy pitch and catch. So I know it looks crazy because he is so skinny and whatnot. But I'm telling you, a lot of times those are the hardest guys to press. All right, so that's going to do it for the first episode of CrockTalk podcast. I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm going to make sure, I keep this thing going and be more consistent with the episodes that are coming out. This will be on any podcasting site that you can go on, whether it's Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Make sure you guys listen. Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel, CrockTalk TV. Subscribe to the Patreon account, patreon.com/CrockTalk. And I appreciate all that. All right, I just had to do that closing for the podcast. All right, now we can get to any questions y'all got. So here we go. Let's get to these questions, baby. How y'all doing today, man? Beautiful Saturday. Got nice weather out here in Southeast Arkansas. Best receiver coming out in 2022. I haven't even dove into the 2022 class yet. So I wish I could tell you. I know everybody likes Olave from Ohio State. I know that much. All right. But yeah, I'm going to start answering these questions, baby. Let's go. Scroll up a little bit. Coach Timo, I appreciate it. Yes, sir. You the man. Appreciate the production value and quality. Oh, man, I try, man. Yeah, hey, the Patreon account, I haven't done a video in like a month, but it's about to go back up. So season 2 is about to start. My first video is going to be on the kid from, and I've already started breaking it down and cutting it up. The kid from Arkansas, Burke, number 16. I've been watching him. He looks a little bit like AJ Brown. That's what he looks like. He's not as twitchy or sudden, but he's just this big, fast, productive receiver. He can win vertically. He can play through contact extremely well. They line him up at running back sometimes, and you don't necessarily think that you're going to see something like that, but they'll line him up at running back. But he's nice. He's nice. Again, reminds me a lot of AJ Brown. AJ Brown coming out was either my wide receiver 2 or 3. Can't remember. It was him and Deebo Samuel. You can flip flop them or whatever way. It was DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, and one of the two, or is it 2 or 3, whatever. But yeah, he reminds me a lot of AJ Brown. And I'm not saying I'll have him as high as I had AJ Brown, but I know I like Burke a lot. I like some of his ability. Again, not the twitches of guys, but yeah. What's good? Rombo wasn't on last night either. I gotta check out Rombo, man. Rombo, and for those of you who don't know, he got Rombo Sports. Huge following on YouTube. He's a 49er guy. He's a fan. Obviously I'm a 49er fan, but it's with Rombo, it's like he's like a super fan. But he does an amazing job with the platform that he has built up, and he does a good job. I don't hear him or see him on anything else. So a lot of guys in kind of like the 49ers community, we'll go on each other's podcasts and whatnot, but Rombo, I don't know if people leave him out. Maybe I should reach out to Rombo, and if that's what y'all want to hear. I don't think I've never even talked to the guy or anything. Southeast Arkansas. I'm in Northeast Arkansas. I'm gonna guess and say, Croc, you are near Pine Bluff. Yeah, yep. I'm near Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff probably like 30 minutes away from me. 30 minutes. So I'm even more south. Like I'm down near Louisiana and Mississippi. I'm over here in the sticks. Yeah. But yes, sir. I'm northeast. Northeast. Okay, that's even away from Fayetteville. I'm learning Arkansas, man. It's country as hell out here. I'll tell you that. I was talking to a mom the other day, and she was telling me about how her daughter in middle school was dating black kids, and white woman, and her daughter was dating black boys, or had a black boyfriend in the 8th grade, and her white friends' moms told them don't be her friend no more, because they didn't like that. It's a little backwards out here. I ain't gonna lie. Well, see, my daughter's half and half. My daughter is half white, half black. So, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it kind of gets a little bit better by then. If you reach out to Rombo, he will respond on the show. Yeah, I just, I don't. Yeah, I feel like we kind of leave Rombo out of the whole little 49ers community. You know what I'm saying? So, we gotta get Rombo on board, man. Get him out of there, out that little hole he in. But he does his thing though. Rombo has a huge following. His production, everything is tight. I've watched a couple of his shows. Crazy people to think that way, Croc. Crazy, huh? That's what I'm thinking. And I'm from California, so California, we don't deal with stuff like that. But it's definitely a little different here in the South. But I tell you what, everybody has been great to me. Hey Eric, how's the real estate market there? I'm a wholesaler, but football my first. I haven't looked into the real estate. It's different out here. There's not like a whole lot of homes and stuff. Or there's not like a whole lot of neighborhoods. I'm actually in a bigger town, like for here, where I'm from Stockton, California. We look at Stockton like a town. There's probably down there 400,000 people in Stockton. Here, I'm in a town that's considered a bigger town, and there's 10,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. Got a whole university here and everything. But as far as like they need more homes. I know that for sure. They need more homes because I can't even buy a house right now. Like, there's nothing for sale. Man, my wife are like, man, we might end up, I don't know, saving up and building a house or something. Yeah, but if I had to guess, I would say the real estate market kind of sucks out here. If I had to guess. 209 Stockton, yes, sir. We out here, you feel me? Yeah. Croc reports at OTA. How do we feel about Bosa? I think Bosa's gonna come back good. There are certain people. Remember when Adrian Peterson was hurt? Then Adrian Peterson came back and ran for 2,000 yards. And I'm not saying Bosa's gonna be that, but there's just some certain people that are just kind of freaking natures, and I think Bosa is along those lines. Like, obviously, it's a little scary because it's like, damn, Bosa coming back from injury. How much of can you count on or lean on for him to do well and whatnot, whatever the case is. But if there's anybody that's going to come back from an injury and do well, I would say Bosa, because I think he just has those type of genetics. I think he has that type of work ethic. And I think Bosa's going to be just fine. Yeah. So that's the last player I would worry about. I'm not worried about him coming back. I think his discipline is on point. It's the other dudes. It's the Deebo Samuels and stuff, which sounds like everything that's coming out of camp right now is good. But those be the dudes I'd be worried about coming back from injuries and stuff. Not Bosa. Croc reports that OTS Jason Verrett looks good and healthy. What are your expectations for Verrett if healthy all year? I think we see what we saw last year. I think a guy that's just a really good starting cornerback. Can he be the CB1 and shut down and shadow guys and stuff like that? I ain't gonna go that far. But as far as kind of what he is, really good starting cornerback, and if he is that, that's a huge plus for the 49ers for sure. For sure. 916-707 is my home. Oh, yeah. Sacramento to 707. That's Fairfield over there, right? Vallejo. Haven't kept up on your business, etc. Are you planning on staying out in Arkansas? You doing camps, opening a training facility? So it looks like I'm leaning more towards that way. I'm working on something really big out here, a big project. Actually building a 12,000 square foot sports performance facility out here. There are no other trainers other than myself. If I had the light on right now, you could see right now I'm in the gym that I train in now, but we're actually building a 12,000 square foot gym, turfed out, the whole thing. I'll be throwing camps in there. It's gonna be some awesome stuff. So I got 2 business ventures I'm working on right now. So I got that with the the sports performance facility I'm building, 12,000 square foot. It's gonna be all nice, real cool. Got the turf. I mean, we went fishing with the turf. It was like $57,000 or something crazy like that. But turf is gonna be real nice, equipment, all that stuff. Train all the kids in the area. And then I have I'm signing my lease on an office space that I'm turning into an actual streaming studio. So I'm creating my own streaming studio and stuff. Start taking this stuff more serious. Got some good opportunities on things coming up. So I was like, you know what? Let me increase the production and value of everything that I'm doing and give people just a good product. So the streaming studio is coming up. I'm gonna invest more in mics and just soundboards. It's just stuff like that. Make it just a better overall experience with all this stuff. Let's see. Any questions, y'all? Feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. Here we go. I don't want to do that. I guess we want to run zone then. I think, and if this is response to Jason Verrett, I think Verrett can be a good, solid man corner. Now, we saw Diggs break him down a little bit, right? Diggs broke him all the way down. Maybe you don't want to leave him out there on the island with Diggs, but, as far as just playing man, and, I think you do well, they went like kind of cover 4 heavy with him. Now, cover 4, so Ambry Thomas, right? 49ers drafted Ambry Thomas from Michigan. He is a press heavy corner coming out of Michigan. And when I say press heavy, like press heavy alignment. So one thing I learned, especially when I was with the Jets, is you can run pretty much almost every coverage, except for maybe like sky cover 3. There's probably a couple other ones, but most coverages you can run from a press alignment. So whether it's cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can run those from press alignment. You just might have to be outside shade depending on the coverage. So Ambry Thomas, if the 49ers do want to be a cover 4 team, they went more towards that last year, right? They went more cover 4 heavy, it seemed like, more quarters, more too high stuff. Ambry Thomas can do that from press. Now, maybe a guy like Verrett feels more comfortable playing that from off, and really, especially cover 4, kind of turns into man at some point. But Ambry Thomas, I saw him do some of that stuff from press where it's press with outside alignment, and he'll squeeze a route or fall off depending on the guy. So, I still think they can go man. I still think they can go man. But, yeah, I don't think man is going to be their base coverage. Or if you look at a team like Patriots, they run probably more man than anyone else. Eric, what do you think of the notion that we will actually run more man and cover 4 this season? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I just kind of answered that, right? I definitely think we'll see more quarters, or we'll at least expect it more this year. They ran more quarters last year. I think that was maybe one of their primary coverages. So if I had to guess, I'd say you see more of that, probably more of man. And, there were certain things that kind of hindered them a little bit from being able to maybe run as much man last year as they, probably ideally would have liked. But, yeah, I think you'll definitely see a little bit more man. I think you'll see a little bit more man coverage. Sherman, I think, is maybe a little bit past his just pure man coverage days. Still terrific value with him being his own corner and his ability to play with his eyes and make plays from that standpoint. It looked like they didn't want to play a whole lot of man with Sherman. I'm not sure. But I saw some certain instances where when they did go man, they moved him to this other position that I haven't seen them do. Now, that could just be when I noticed it, and maybe they played a bunch of man with Richard Sherman. But I do remember specific situations where they would move Sherman to a different spot and have a guy like Keller Witherspoon in so they can play more man. That's just kind of what I remember, especially like after the Bills game. What do you think of the DBs that we drafted? I like them. And when I say I like them, I just like kind of what they are. And now that's not to say that they're going to be these great shutdown corners or anything like that, or they're the future. But, in the sense of like kind of the talent that they possess and the movement skills, the ability and stuff like that, like, I like that. Lenoir is a little interesting. I think he has the ability to be a versatile corner, be able to play press, play off. He can do those things. He's extremely scrappy. I like his mindset. I watched one game, 2020. I did a film breakdown of that where he played extremely well. Matter of fact, if you go back to in these videos, there's a breakdown of Lenoir against Stanford. I thought he did extremely well and showed a lot that you want to see from an ability standpoint, and it's pretty in depth. So go ahead, check that out if you haven't. But I know the previous year he was a little more up and down. He was more up and down. So I'm not sure which one the 49ers are getting. If you look at the one rep in rookie minicamp, you're like, damn, looks great. But I know the film 2019 for Lenoir, up and down. 2020 saw some really good things. Let's see. I think the 49ers are headed in the more man coverage direction based on their picks this year. But again, like I said, and maybe that is the case. But I look at especially Thomas, who they drafted late third round. Ambry Thomas, he played in a lot of press alignment. So there's press alignment and then there's jamming technique. Press alignment, that's just I'm just aligned. I could be 7 yards off in my alignment. So there's off coverage alignment, there's press alignment. He lined up in press, but it didn't necessarily mean that he was always in man coverage. You got to look and see, was he outside shade? Was he inside shade? Now I can't tell you if it's a zone play or man. Does he man turn? Does he work to, funnel the receiver back inside? We'll see. If I had to guess, I'd say Ambry Thomas' strength is playing at the line of scrimmage. Appreciate all y'all being in here, checking out. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Eric, I'm seeing the videos of Tony Jefferson working out in 49ers gear. Is he coming after June 1st? I haven't heard him linked to another team. No, I don't know. I would say that the 49ers probably have to see how it plays out with him. He's coming off of an injury, and not just play out with him, but play out for, other guys. They have, Marcel Harris, Moore, Ward, Tart. They have kind of the band coming back. So you have your four safety that you really like. Maybe Tony Jefferson, they bring him in for another workout, just see if he's in shape and he's on standby. Maybe he's a guy that they can add to a practice squad if they do some of the things like they did last year with the veterans that are able to go on practice squad. That's if Tony Jefferson is willing to take that kind of money. So, yeah. As far as the Schwartz go, he probably had a workout with the 49ers. And, they give you gear during your workouts. I had workouts with the Eagles and Saints. I still have that gear that they gave me during the workout. So I don't think it's like, oh my God, he wore 49er shorts. Like, I just think he got the 49er shorts and he just happened to be working out in them. I still got Eagles shorts. I still got Saints shorts. Still got Jet shorts. I got to find them. My family steals all my stuff. Sherman's always has been a cover guy who does best work in that scheme. Yeah. So there was a question. There was a question that I was asked on a Jets podcast, and they asked, who would I choose, Revis or Sherman? And I think really, man, that's kind of a loaded question because the guys are just so much different with what they were asked to do, but they both excelled in what they were asked to do at a very high level. So you look at Sherman, I've never seen somebody execute zone coverage the way that he did. And it's not just a normal zone. Like, you look at that defense and people, Seattle cover 3, it's zone. And it's like, yeah, but there's a lot of man principles in that coverage as well. Like, it's not like he's just, I'm just off and then cover 3 sky. Like, nah, like he was responsible for an entire third. So whether it was a 5-yard stop, out route, deep in, post, go, deep stop, come back, any of those, like he was responsible for all that. And the way he was able to play it and use his lane, I mean, it was the best that we've seen, at least of this kind of current generation. So you look at what he did during that time and really erase receivers, that anybody that was to his side, he did that at the highest level, and that was what they asked him to do. Now you look at Revis, he was asked to do different things. He was asked to do a little bit more. He would follow guys, he would shadow guys, and that's not to say that Sherman didn't. There are games I specifically think of in my mind. I think 2014, you watched him against Dallas Cowboys. He started following Dez Bryant around, follow him into the slot and everything, and it was a big dog battle. So I think people don't think about those moments with Sherman, and obviously it's being highlighted more with Revis. And I do think Revis was, had a little bit more responsibility on his plate in the sense of like kind of really shadowing guys and covering guys for more parts of a game. But they're just different, and I think they both executed what they were asked to do to the highest level. That's kind of my opinion on the two guys. Who I would want, you can't go wrong with either guy, But both dogs, both of them, love their confidence too. Eric, do you feel the Cards or the Rams are the 49ers' biggest challenge for the West? I'm always going to say the Seahawks. There's just something about Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson. I just feel like you always got to go with them until proven otherwise. Didn't they just beat the 49ers twice last year, Seahawks? They kicked the 49ers' ass for a decade. It's been more of them winning than the 49ers, that's for sure. And when they beat the 49ers, they like dogged the 49ers. When the 49ers beat them, the games have been very close. So I'm always gonna go with Seahawks. E40, I used to listen to The Click. Mr. Flamboyant was my maiden. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you from the 707. I think that's what you're saying, right? Because I used to listen to all that E40. Definitely The Click. My mom, that was all she listened to. So I can kind of rattle off all those songs, especially young E40 songs. Probably first grade. I was in first grade talking about Captain Save-A-Ho. What that nigga name, Captain Save-A-Ho, man? Yeah, all that. I was in the first grade singing that. Probably shouldn't be, but. Josiah Crocker, what's up, man? 49ers Kings of the Hill. Always got to show Josiah some love, man. Like that Crocker, that's a special last name right there. I hear you. Wins are changing. I hear you. But I got to see it, though. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the Seahawks won't, or the Rams won't be that, or the Cardinals, whatever. I just can't. I got to see somebody really take the Seahawks out. I got to see it. See, so tell me when to go. That's hyphy movement. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's hyphy movement, like E40. That's way later. That was a good E40 though. I like that E40. Croc, sorry to hear you're leaving Strike and Go, but I'm happy for your new opportunity. Big fan, bro. Hey man, I appreciate it. You've always showed a bunch of love. So it is the end of me on Strike and Go, but come Monday, y'all will hear me on a different podcast. So I'm not going to announce that just yet. I will announce, make sure you guys subscribe to the CrockTalk podcast, which will be out on all streaming sites. I'm not sure if it's uploaded just yet to the Apple one, but it will be soon. But yeah. So I announced it a little bit. I announced it a lot of it on Twitter. I announced it that this was my last week on Strike and Gold, and so you guys will catch me on a new podcast, which really excited to be a part of. Great opportunity. Yeah. Glad I came and followed you before then so I can keep you in my feed. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, sir. You sound like Tyron Woodley. Is Tyron Woodley? Is that the fighter? He's a fighter or something, right? Like UFC or boxer or something like that. Can I fight like him? That's the better question. UFC guy, yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Hey man, so you got to keep listening to Strike and Gold because Rob is gonna keep Strike and Gold going. All right, it's gonna be Rob. He will have a new co-host. We don't know exactly who just yet, but as soon as I find out, I'm probably find out at the same time as y'all. Rob will probably keep me in the loop with everything that's going on with that. But I'll have a new co-host on a different podcast that has been going on, but they're adding me to it. So, really excited. Y'all should hear about that soon. Yeah, yes, sir. Hey, Mac Dre is not my job. So I'm from the Valley. All right. I'm from Stockton. But obviously, Mac Dre, E40, they've been instrumental in, me growing up and stuff. So Mac Dre, not my job. That's a song obviously I know very well. I can get him, but anything else, that's not my job. That's that Mac Dre. Okay. Yeah. I can make you a slapper, but anything else, that's not my job. Yeah, Diaz bros. Yeah, they're from the crib. They're from Stockton. We're actually, we all from the north side. We went to the same high school. Me and the Diaz brothers. They went to Tokay. I went to Tokay. You like HD or Bareface? See, I couldn't see. I can't tell you. Can't tell you who those guys are. E40 or Too Short. I'm for sure. I gotta go E40. I gotta go E40. I'm definitely more of a, but Too Short, real player. He's a real player, but I'm for sure more of a E40 guy. All right, I'm about to get up out of here, man. Hey, I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Remember, the first part of this was the podcast, and then the last 20 minutes or so has been it'll be on the live stream. I appreciate everybody jumping in here. Too Short be Freaky Tales is a classic. Yeah, Too Short's a pimp, man. I like Too Short, but if I choose between the two, for sure E40. So that's gonna do it, man. I appreciate everybody coming in. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast that's gonna be up. Obviously, if you guys caught the whole live stream, which the podcast is gonna be definitely more wide receiver, defensive back. Around the league, not just the 49ers, but clearly I think every episode I'll touch on something with the 49ers. Like I just have to. So I appreciate everybody rocking with me. Y'all have a great weekend. Y'all have a great holiday. Have a lot of fun on Monday. Not too much fun. Everybody stay safe. I appreciate all y'all. Y'all keep checking in. Striking Gold. Not Striking Gold. See, I gotta stop saying that. Dang. Gotta stop saying that. That's gonna be tough. Rob's my guy, man. I love my brother Rob. But CrockTalk TV. I'm out of here.